So early on, though, when we were up at your studio, I think this was like 3 years ago or so,
just before.
we were talking about these. One of the things that when I asked you about why the pattern, and in some of these you have pattern, and some are using more fabric and lace and things like that, so they tend to look a little bit more sinewy and very much more feminine than the patterns, because the patterns, are really different than what you would consider for flesh, even though you tend to use them in the same tone, or in the same hues that you see in the paintings. You sort of try and stick with that if you can, but you don't obsess over modeling it so it looks exactly like a leg, which is also what's nice about your work, is that it is an abstraction, and you continue down that vein. But you had said to me that what you were trying to do was sort of diffuse the intensity of the objectification, or the sort of sexualization of the figures, and making it just simply more, it's an arm, it's a leg, it's a breast.
Less erotic.
It's so what, it's,
right.
Everyone's got them.
Right.
Sort of thing. And that was sort of your thought.
Less erotic. Yes,
it's less erotic, yes. And so you're still kind of sticking with that, because they're still seductive, interesting, some of them sexy, sort of people, but in situations, but some of them are the situations that they were captured in, in these original paintings. But so that is also part of your purpose and intent, is just to really just focus on the figure, because that's what I've always tried to focus on in my writing about your work, is that it's line, color, form. You keep it more formal, and these are figures and a human being and what have you. But it's not the sexualization. It's more of a formal exploration in how you can treat a human figure with patterning, and make it sort of more of an object and less of a an idealized thing, if you will, or more sensual or erotic thing.
Yeah, and color, you mentioned, also is a very important aspect. All my work has been involved with serious color in the past, and this as well. And it's, you said that was a little bit lighter weight, even though, because coming after the bath, you sort of feel washed over, whereas this is in the jungle. And so you don't shy away from saturated colors at all, and you never have. In the Maja, more particularly, much more color than in the original work. And the figures are, flesh-like, so there's no color within the figure in these paintings.
So what's next?
Well, it's like a writer who finished a novel and doesn't want to talk too much about the next one. But I do have something in mind. I don't know if it'll happen, but what's in your head doesn't necessarily evolve. So I have this 10-foot sprawl of this paper, and I was thinking of doing women nudes painted by women in an atmosphere of French tapestry. So there's a lot of pattern. I was, looking in the past to see who was doing their own self-portraits, women painting themselves in the nude. But there's also a secondary level of artists who painted nudes in art history. Not the most obvious ones, but there are loads of other artists who painted nudes. Oh yeah. Which is, I could go on forever with that. And the drawings are so much fun, and they don't take as much time or effort, and just a little touch of collage here and there. I'll probably continue with those as well. Oh, I think they're spectacular. Yeah, they're really quite good, and they're very fun. Anything else you want to point out, or you want to say specifically about any one of these, or about the process, or? I think we pretty much covered it in this one. Anybody else with a face that we know? It was fun trying to get somebody's face leaning like, but I enjoy doing them, and I hope some of that joy comes through.
Yeah, no, they're very fun, but they're really.
And I like the idea that there are so many specific things to look at. I mean, I like a painting or a work of art where you really have to spend time trying to really see it all.
Right.
And there's a lot to see in each.
Well, there is a density of imagery, which, you know, your earlier work from the 70s, these paintings, you know, a lot of the paintings you did back then in the early 80s, there was a lot of density, but it was, the patterns created a singular picture. And so that's the big difference. When you walked up, you saw this shape or pattern, and then when you got up closer to it, you realized how it was done with these rows and rows of, or grids of things where it was subtle transitions of color, and out of that emerged this overall pattern.
Right.
And so because your work it's very tedious in its execution. I mean, it's literally dots. It's like Bende dots being laid down one at a time, or very small squares. And but the difference here is you have that sort of patterning here next to other pattern, and so so you're right. This is more dense in that regard, but you still end up with this when you step back. There's a singular sort of figure or picture. So it's an interesting way of picture making, to say the least. And there's also some funny things in some of these too, like the pistachio shells.
And these are actual leaves, real leaves.
I wondered if they were.
Yeah,
I wondered if they were like, fake ones from like, one of the, like the people who make the leaves, you put your cheese and things like that on when you have entertaining. And then I like this one too with these dots.
Oh, those are the dots. So back to the dots.
Yeah, the dots are quite good.
So, it's everything from me in it. I do a lot of cutting out little shapes from, so it is very tedious.
Yeah, it's a tremendous amount of work.
But I must say that COVID kept me indoors working day and night.
Yeah. No, I like them. Well, I hope people can come in and see them. This is, as I said, in our uptown location on 121st Street for those of you who are in New York or come to New York. And if you enjoy, hearing artists like Dee talk about her work and seeing, a different range of work, we have these videos with all of our different artists, and even if it's with some of our estates or artists who are deceased, we always try and get family members or friends or colleagues who knew them to talk about the work. And if you enjoy these, please subscribe. And these are all posted on YouTube and on our gallery website. But subscribing keeps you sort of up to date. Some months we have 2 and 3, and some months we have 1, and but there are quite a few. So thanks for joining us, and thanks Dee a lot.
Thank you.
And we'll see you the next time.
Yeah.